Man Listening is ad-free, commercial-free, and listener-supported. If you like what you hear and you believe in elevating the powerful stories of strong women, just go to Patreon, patreon.org, and look for Man Listening. Thanks so much.
And I was so full of shame. For the next 7 or 8 months, every time I walked by a mirror, I turned sideways to see if the baby bump was coming.
What is the sound of one man listening? This is Man Listening, a fresh podcast featuring the stories of strong women who bounce back. Man Listening, because every woman deserves to be heard.
Hi, I'm Stuart Watson, and welcome to Man Listening. I have tried to get to land an interview with Gina Stewart for months, if not years. It's been over a year since I've asked her. Musician, entrepreneur, creative spirit, really interesting person. One of those kind of people who makes Charlotte just tons more interesting. Just contributes so much. She runs a little eatery, little diner now, which I encourage you to go to, called East Side Local. She calls it ESL, but she's played in all manner of bands over the years. And it is right next to one of Charlotte's real hidden gems, a place called Visart, which is no mere video store. It is a cultural resource with over 30,000 films, videos, the largest collection on the East Coast. It appeared in Atlas Obscura. It's really fascinating. And she's going to talk about a project which links the two of those, and we get into it about the arts and Charlotte. But mainly, this is about my friend Gina. Enjoy. Where were you born?
Wait a minute, I got a plan for you because I listened to you, Stuart. Stewart, whose first name is my last name.
So you've blown
Where you begin, I've blown your plan. That's what I've done. I've blown your plan. So you've blown your thing.
What's my plan? What's your plan?
My plan is because I listened to you, and I knew that was going to be the first question. I already knew. I jumped to that conclusion that I'm going to sing you 2 verses of a song that I wrote that will tell you all that you need to know.
Okay.
It is my autobiographical song.
Well, as long as there's not a copyright, I mean, you're the one. You're letting us use it.
I own it.
If you don't own you, I mean, if you don't own you.
This is my autobiography, okay? Under the nose of Nixon and in the wake of Vietnam, another white trash baby dropped like a bomb, and you prayed for redemption on your bloody knees. You take another pill and swallow for the new mouth you feed. What a friend you find in Jesus. What a friend you'll find when the water turns to wine. You can drown all your sorrow one more time in the blood of the Lamb for the life you left behind. On a wing and a prayer in a tin trailer home that got parked a little sideways and left there all alone, killing time like mosquitoes. They feed upon your skin. This ain't the first time you say never. never again. That's the first 2 verses of my autobiography.
Oh my God. You pack a lot in there.
Yeah.
Anytime you get Nixon and Jesus in the
You're in trouble. Yes, you are very much in trouble.
Okay. Where was this trailer park?
This trailer park was on Andrews Air Force Base, right outside of D.C. in 1961. And that song really it turns out to be about my mother, who I love so dearly. She's still living, and my huge creative inspiration, and I inherited a lot from my mother, I think. But anyway, my dad was in the Air Force. I grew up with the Blue Angels practicing above my head right outside of D.C. on Andrews Air Force Base. Nixon era. My father's job in the Air Force was to guard Air Force One during Nixon.
Oh my word. Did he meet Nixon?
Mm-hmm. He liked him very much.
Do you have a autographed White House thing?
I have White House cigarettes. I have presidential.
Have you smoked them?
No.
Did you get desperate?
It's a wonder, isn't it? I don't even know if they make presidential cigarettes anymore.
Somehow I don't see Obama cigarettes. Although that would be great.
Yes.
Oh, boom.
Oh,
there
boom.
we go. There's an idea. There's an idea
there's
whose
a
time has
collector's
come.
item. If there were Obama cigarettes, I want them.
And what you need to do
I'll
is
smoke them.
Find what his brand was and rip it off. Do a duplicate. Do a generic Obama. Oh my God.
If
someone hears this before we trademark that.
Obama's secret smoke.
Okay.
Only do one a day.
Yeah, they come in packs of 1.
Perfect.
That's great. There's another $1 million idea we're just giving away right here in the podcast. For purposes of understanding you, what should I know about your mother?
You should know that my mother is the most creative person in the world as far as I'm concerned. We were poor. We were a 10-trailer home, and we were parked a little bit sideways.
How many kids?
2. I have an older sister. My parents gave birth to 2 artists, and they are the shyest people in the world. My mother said, I would rather take an F on my paper than get up and talk in front of people. My mother is funny and creative and clairvoyant. So for a little Southern lady who sees the future and who sees what not everyone else sees, it's a startling existence. I think she's a genius. I think she's brilliant. But I'm not sure she has ever known quite what to do with her own perception. That's important about my mother because we were poor. She married my father when she was 18. They've only been with each other. They've been together all their lives.
Still around?
Still around, both of them.
Still married?
Still married.
Oh my word. Is that a good idea?
I don't know. I think they got along better when they were 18.
You're Switzerland. You're agnostic. You do not express an opinion.
I do not. I admire the longevity and what an example of unconditional love they are. I admire the loyalty. I am bred with loyalty. I'm bred with, which is kind of hard to find. They're simple in a way, and the most complex people in the world in a way.
How did your mother express her creativity?
She made things out of nothing because she had nothing. So I can look at my business here and tell you that 95% of Eastside Local Eatery, this little eatery that I've created, 95% of this is made out of things that people were throwing away. We turned things into other things. And that's what my mother did. And I guess, as you get older, you realize where things really come from. So I have all these memories of her taking banana split boats and saying, Oh, yes, you have a Barbie house. Here's Barbie's boat. Oh, yes, Barbie has lamps. We have all the lamps we need. Take the top off the Palmolive bottle, turn it upside down, and Barbie has a beautiful little white lamp in her bedroom that doesn't exist in anywhere but imagination. So my mother had this huge imagination. She wanted to make life magic for us, and she did. For me, in particular, I think, my sister's experience is not always the same, but for me, there was something where she made life magic for me.
Did you know at the time, did you say to yourself, we're poor?
No.
Like when you went to school, did you?
No, I had no idea we were poor. I had no idea how much we were struggling until we moved south. And
so you moved from where to where?
I moved from Andrews Air Force Base to Huntersville, North Carolina. In the 4th grade, we moved, and I had grown up military. I had grown up in military schools. Huntersville was a shock. I didn't adjust well. My mother didn't adjust easily.
What was shocking about it?
Well, I was in little dresses and knee socks that were controlled by the government no more than 3 inches. And I came into a school where some people came barefoot and some people had shorts on, and everybody had a Southern accent, and I had a Yankee. Believe it or not, now I had myself a little Yankee accent. And my mother, what I remember about that experience is that what my mother carried with her in her baggage was losing her independence, what she had gained by going to D.C., learning how to drive on all those clover leaves, taking care of her 2 children, oftentimes by herself, dealing with my father suddenly leaving and not knowing where he was. There was a real solid strength and independence that she had in D.C., and she came back, and we were in the middle of our Southern family. What is inherently in a Southern family kind of is a shame. It felt like, to me, this is my adult looking at my little girl going, why are we moving to shame? In the Air Force, if you live in a trailer, you're smart because you take your home with you. It was very important to my mother. Take home with us, take all our dishes. We're not moving apartment to apartment. And we're going to have something to show for our hard work. We'll be able to sell this trailer and not have wasted all our money on rent. And I was brought up to know that. But when we moved south, to live in a trailer was to become white trash. And I heard that word for the first time out of the mouth of someone in my family. That was different. And I had a hard time making friends because there was a lot of Yankee prejudice, people thought I was conceited, thought I was better than people, and it was because I was really shy and I didn't say much. I could go on and tell you about my 4th grade, my first friend, Nancy Hooper.
So she was different, she accepted you.
Nancy Hooper lived way out in the country, and Nancy Hooper, who was still living, God only knows where she is, she was kind to me, and she didn't care. She did not care what anybody else thought. She had been raised, what I learned about was camp meeting and the Baptist kindness, and you don't judge people. Somewhere in Nancy Hooper's benevolence, she reached out to me. She also loved to gossip, and she could hook me in up.
So you had the inside scoop.
Inside scoop of Nancy. But Nancy invited me for a sleepover, met her family. Should we hold for sound?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
It's where we are.
It's where we are. Welcome to the East Side. But I've told this story before. I didn't think I was going to tell it today, but I will, about how I lost my virginity, but really didn't.
I don't know how that works.
Well, in the 4th grade, Nancy invites me to a sleepover at her house. And there I am in my knee socks and my little military self. Get off the school bus, total farm. We get off the bus and with her sister Sherry Lynn and her brother Jeppy Jr. And we get off the bus and she says, okay, we're going to run through the field. If the bull chases you now, you just jump over the fence. It's okay. Bull chased me. Jumped over the fence. Barbed wire caught on my pants. Ripped my pants open. I was like, okay. Then they did this thing where they said, we're going to have a shit fight. So they start pummeling dried clods of cow poop at each other. I had been a white glove kid, so I knew my mother would not approve of me picking that up with my bare hands, so I got pummeled with cow poop. They suggested I ride the horse through the leaves. The horse rolled over on me because that's what horses do. I'm in 4th grade, right?
I wonder it didn't break every bone in your body.
I survived that. We had dinner, which was kind of a little bit, I learned every cuss word that I could even think of at the dinner table. Then the next morning, I woke up and Nancy had these I had a great time. I was having a great time, right? I don't want to be disparaging to the
like
Hoopers.
An amusement park.
Because I was like, I had made a friend. I love Nancy Hooper. I love her to this day. But I wake up the next morning and Nancy's in the shower and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed and her little brother, Jeppy Jr., comes walking into the room and he says, I don't know if I can say, I guess I can say this, right? He's all of like 10 years old. And he comes up to me and he says, while you and Nancy was asleep last night, I snuck in here and I fucked you.
And had you ever heard that word? Did you have any?
I knew what it was. And I knew I wasn't supposed to do it yet. But I also had this biblical story in my mind about Mary. That just, especially when you're a little girl, you're like, wait a minute, she didn't do that wrong thing that you're not supposed to do, but still she was going to have a baby, and I know that that's what makes a baby. So I was instantaneously pregnant with Jeppy Jr.'s child, right?
Jeppy Jr.
Jeppy Jr. I was like, oh my God. My mother is not going to believe me. I don't remember this. I don't know what happened. Oh, God. I was like, oh, God. Nancy comes out of the shower, and, we're 4th graders. I told her what Jeppy had said, and I said, oh, my God. Nancy, do you think he really did that? And Nancy burst into tears. I don't know. He probably did. I can't have anybody over. Mama!
Yeah, of all the things, it's like this ruins the sleepovers.
Jeppy, I can't have anybody over. Jeppy is always impregnating them.
Did you speak to his mother or something?
Well, she screamed, Mama. Okay, so the first reaction was, oh my God, you're going to tell your mother. You're going to tell your mother. So Mildred comes in, cigarette in mouth, smoking that cigarette. And Nancy tells her the whole story of what Jeppy's done. Mildred, in all her infinite wisdom, never stopped to say, that's impossible, that didn't happen, you're fine, you're not pregnant, oh God. She simply said, God damn it. Jeppy, I thought I told you not to bother these girls. So I'm sitting there going, is that it? Is that all that happens to him? Oh my God. No one ever told me. And I was so full of shame that what I did was for the next 7 or 8 months, every time I walked by a mirror, I turned sideways to see if the baby bump was coming, if it was going to happen. I knew sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't, but most times it did. So I was so filled with shame and stuff. That I finally told my mother that story when I was 30.
And her reaction was,
Oh my God, I'm a horrible mother.
she blamed herself.
Yes, of course.
She could have kept you from the spend the night party.
Yes, why didn't I have a better eye on you?
But your mother did not regard those people as trashy, obviously. I mean, your mother was obviously very open, to...
My mother loves everybody.
What kind of kid were you in high school?
I went from, in 9th grade in junior high school, I got the superlative of most popular, because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to make friends. And I wanted to be a cheerleader, which I never was, really.
Did you go out for it?
Oh, yes.
And so you were the perennial also ran.
Yes. By high school, I got most independent, I think, most liberated. I got most liberated. Imagine
Congratulations.
that. Yeah, I'm proud of it now. At the time, I was like, what does that mean?
And were you some kind of Gloria Steinem person for North Mac? Why did they call you most liberated?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. Maybe it was because I did things that shocked people. Like played electric guitar for my talent in the beauty pageant.
What song?
When Will I Be Loved?
Ah, interesting. Did you sing it as well?
Mm-hmm.
And did you plug in, I guess?
Oh, yeah. I plugged in.
Excellent.
And I think that the person playing the piano was a half a step lower than me.
Too bad there's not video of that. It's gotta be.
Terrible.
So you did not win.
I did not win. I did get in the top 10, and number 4 is still my favorite number because I was number 4 in the beauty pageant.
Excellent. So when did you first start playing music, for real, play your own stuff, that kind of thing?
I sang in public for the first time on my 15th birthday because my sister dated musicians chronically and habitually. So she brought all these musicians to the house, and I don't know if I wanted to be a singer or if I wanted to be Linda Ronstadt, and I didn't realize that it was already taken. But I loved Linda Ronstadt. At 15, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. My mother got me singing lessons. Of course, I was learning all these arias and stuff that I didn't want to sing. My sister's boyfriend let me sing That'll Be the Day in public with his band at the American Legion Hall. So that started a thing.
And how were you received?
Great. I mean, it was all my sister's friends who thought I would,
So you got a round of applause.
I got a round of applause. The most horrible thing is I was all dressed and ready to go, and my mother said, I wonder if you've thought of one thing, honey. What if they boo you?
Oh, great. That's confidence building. And what were you wearing?
Before my mother said that, I was wearing a black jumpsuit. And after my mother said that and I cried my makeup off, I changed into blue jean gauchos with matching plaid around the collar.
Although crying your makeup off is a look.
I know. I was before my time.
You were before, punk.
I know.
Before goth.
Before pre-Blondie.
That's a cultivated look.
And I was very much into punk music because I played in punk bands.
When did you first get paid?
When did I first get paid?
Music?
I had a little garage band with some guys in high school, and we got paid a little bit.
All boys?
All boys and me.
Now, were you the girl singer, or did you also back them up on things?
I played a little bit of guitar. We did Bonnie Raitt and Linda Ronstadt stuff and Fleetwood Mac. By this time, my sister was threatened not to be able to go to the Fleetwood Mac Rumors concert unless she took me. So by this time I had seen Stevie Nicks' nose hairs basically, because we went to Rumors twice.
Where was it?
Here in Greensboro, old Charlotte Coliseum. And my sister had to babysit me. So I've told this story a million times too, but my sister had to babysit me. And she either took me to the concert or she didn't get to go. So she took me. We got to the door of the Coliseum and she said, if you see me in there, don't act like you know me, meet me back here when it's all over. So I made my way down to the floor and onto the shoulders, because I was tiny. When I would make my way down to the floor, there was always some drunken man who would put me on his shoulders, and I was like, Stevie Nicks was here, I was here.
Oh, my word.
It was fantastic. And it solidified, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. And so how much money did your little band earn when they actually paid you?
I think we might have made $25 or.
And how much of that did you see? $5?
Yeah,
$2?
probably.
Like
yeah, and then there was a nice, really great man who owned a restaurant in town when I was 15, who hired me for $15 a night to play in his restaurant by myself with my guitar, which I was terrible.
What kind of stuff?
Linda Ronstadt, Carter Family. Carter Family was easy to play. I loved that old, Emmylou Harris did all that Carter Family, so I was like, okay, Maybelle Carter, all of that stuff started then. I learned the Carter scratch, I learned how to play that stuff and loved it.
When you left home, you went where?
I went into an apartment in Noda.
Ah, interesting. Did you have a roommate, boyfriend?
I had, there was a woman who played in a band. The closest thing to me that I was able to see, there used to be a band in Charlotte called the Moore and Perrin Sisters, all female band. They were really good, and she played bass, and by that time I had switched to bass because my sister's boyfriend said, learn to play the bass because no one ever wants to play the bass, and you'll always have a place in the band if you learn to play bass, which is true. Bass players get bored. Bass is fun. It's still my favorite instrument. I love it. But she played bass, and she was really good, and she was a blues singer, and she needed a roommate, and she had an apartment which still exists in Noda, and the rent was $125 a month.
People in Noda now are doing that in like a few days. It must also be said, the number of iconic bass lines that begin songs, just off the charts.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking about it.
What she taught me about too, about strong women and women who just do what they've been doing. I had never heard of a bass player named Carol Kay. And I have all Carol Kay's books. I have like emailed Carol Kay now. But she played bass on all those mega hits, all of These Boots Are Made for Walking, that's her bass line. All of the Beach Boys stuff, all of those fantastic rhythm section, iconic songs, was Carol Kay, you know?
So how'd it go in your career and how'd you make money how'd you make the rent money?
I made the rent by playing in a duo.
So you were a professional musician straight out of high school?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's amazing. Not many people do that. Not many people have the confidence to do that. Was it confidence, or you just didn't know any better?
It was absolute ignorance and gall and determination. I just refused to believe that I couldn't do it, so I didn't know. I didn't know any better. I was like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it. And then all I could figure out from that point is I need to write songs so I started writing. I figured it out. I was always really blessed with older guys who were more than willing to teach me. The Double Door back then was full of these great R&B blues musicians, and I was there constantly.
So where's an 18-year-old or 19-year-old in Charlotte go now?
I don't know.
I mean, they can go to the Muse. I mean, there's an open mic, but I don't know that you have the culture that the Double Door would have.
I don't know that Charlotte has the music scene. I don't know. That's a good question, because I don't know. At this point in my life, I don't know that there's a respect for the elders that I had with older musicians. Like, I was walking into the Double Door to these blues musicians going, this is the teacher of rock and roll. I can't go learn rock and roll at UNCC, where I was a theater student. I was like, where am I going to get this? These old guys, they're 70 years old, and they'll teach me this scale. They'll teach me what they're doing. I can watch them all night long, and I did. That was a real education to me. I don't know that exists now. I don't sense. I'm sure it does on some level. I sound like an old person saying that, because I am a little bit of an old person.
I think it's unfortunate because there are so many talented people who live in Charlotte who are musicians that it really sort of needs a kind of intentional ecosystem.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think Joe Kuhlman at the Evening Muse helps and tries to do that. And he and I have these conversations about Charlotte in particular. And this is really something that has been gnawing at me for years, that Charlotte has a lack of self-esteem artistically, because the artists are here. More often than not, they leave Charlotte. And this is visual arts.
That breaks my heart.
It breaks my heart. Actors leave, directors leave, musicians leave, because it's just, the ground isn't fertile, and there's some sort of pervasive feeling that if you're from here and you live here, you must not be that good, because we need to go see what's coming out of New York. And I've lived in New York, I've lived in Nashville, and so has Joe, so have other people.
And right next door is Visart, which is also a very interesting space. And so if you have a place like the Manor Theater that used to show, it's not just the space, it's that in that space, or a theater in Charlotte that opens and closes, it's not just that theater company, that movie house, that bar, that restaurant. It's that they were the place that you could go to book this. They created, they were part of an ecosystem. So tell me what your ideas were behind these places.
Okay, so I should probably say that I'm executive director of Visart, as well as part owner of Eastside Local. And so,
which are side by side.
And the vision is, and it's happening, we are mating. We are going to open up with a garage door.
It's going to be better than what's his name?
That Jeffy Hooper.
It's actually going to produce
something. Actually. So what we are trying to create is, for one thing, and we got a grant to help us do this, which is promising. We got an innovation grant from Center City Partners, and Honeywell is a big, many companies.
Even though you're not technically in the Center City.
Yes. And that's a result of COVID. These grants were coming out, and they put out there, how are you going to change what you're doing to accommodate this new normal. And I went to the coaching session about getting this grant, and they said, if two businesses collaborate, you're going to have a better chance. And if you get matching funds, you're going to have a better chance of getting this. So I didn't know that I didn't know how to write a grant. I just wrote one. And we got it.
And what you're going to do is, as I understand it, you're going to tear down that wall.
Yeah.
Or tear a hole in that wall.
Yes, while the president was building a wall, we're like, we're going to tear one down.
What always works is alcohol. And so you're going to bridge these two businesses with beer, wine, mimosas, etc., with your permit, right?
Right. Beer, wine, well, all things addictive, including chocolate and popcorn.
It's also, that's a very social kind of thing. It's a way to make money. It's a social thing, and it'll bridge the Visart, the film house, with the music, performance, poetry, and food, yes, which is brilliant.
I love it.
Did you come up with that?
I did. I didn't have any sense of that this can't happen. I had a big sense of it needs to happen because I don't know how ESL is going to survive. And I don't know how Visart's going to survive. Visart is the largest collection of film and video on the East Coast, bar none.
How many films?
40,000.
Mostly on DVD.
Yeah, the physical collection. So, and
some really eclectic and interesting stuff is available there that people don't realize. This is not Blockbuster. This is more like a library.
Yes, it definitely is. It's a film archive now, and it is fully nonprofit.
And a cultural resource.
It is, and a reason to come to Charlotte.
And it makes Charlotte not boring, which it desperately needs.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, people flip out over Visart when they finally find out that it's
They
here.
have to discover it.
Mm-hmm. It's on Atlas Obscura. Are you familiar with
that? Yeah, I get their daily emails. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, it's on there. And I think that what's going to happen because of this grant, I haven't seen it happen anywhere in Charlotte. Maura Quinn called me to say, Gina, you got this grant, and I need to tell you that the decision makers flipped out over this. And I was so complimented by that, and so that was everything to me, because I don't need to tell you, when you do something that no one else has done before, there's a periphery of people going, boy, this is a harebrained idea. Boy, I wish you hadn't done this. Boy, this is never going to fly. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is flying. This airplane just, thank you, Wilbur, right? This is going to happen. And the beauty of it is the collaborative effort, and that businesses don't do this. Typically, they don't look for those win-wins, and it's a huge win-win. We put in a garage door here. Visart has open air, and in the time of COVID, you can literally sit here on this patio and you can watch a movie outside. You're going to be able to see it, and you have access to good, healthy vegan food. And Eastside Local, which is 900 square feet, all total inside, has no inside seating. So when it's December, January, and it's cold out here, you can take your food in there and eat your food, and you can watch we're talking about doing things like coffee and cinema. So we have an old classic movie playing while you drink your latte, or we do cupcakes and cartoons for kids.
Let me just say, beats the hell out of cable news, which depresses the shit out of me in restaurants. I'm like, turn
it off.
The damn news off. But if you have one of these great old movies, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you can start your day that way. I've been really into starting my day with positivity, looking at the positive of things instead of...
How do you do that?
Well, I'm reading this book, and I can't remember the name of it, I'm so sorry, about You know, a lot of it is turning off stuff.
Amen.
Just turn it off.
People.
It's hard to do.
Well, I think Visart is just, as I say, this is the texture of Charlotte, which the city as it blows up. I think these small cultural resources, the Evening News, Eastside Local, Visart, the Manor, God rest in peace, you know, because those are places where you can see a documentary, a foreign film, you can see something, they're eclectic.
Yeah.
They provide texture.
And I agree completely. And I think they provide for Charlotte a portal to positivity, to, I love the quote of nothing destroys prejudice quicker than travel. Well, we've got foreign films, we've got travel back in time at Visart, we've got travel forward in time, we've got across the seas, we've got a lot. The mission of Visart and of ESL is to welcome everything and everybody, every idea, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to be, you know, a safe place.
Yeah.
For that.
Open and welcoming. From playing for $15 a night to becoming a rock and roller, how did that evolution happen?
One of my friends in high school, Hope Nichols, had a band called Fetchin' Bones, which was a punk band. We had worked in theater together. I started playing bass for Fetchin' Bones. Oh God, great creative experience again, because the musicians in Fetchin' Bones didn't know the rules. I was a music major at UNCC at the time that I was in Fetchin' Bones, so I was learning all of this theory, and I had learned it from my sister's boyfriend's music theory. You know, this in this key, you're not supposed to play this note. And then I get in this rock and roll band where they don't know, so they just do it. And it is still one of the most creative, greatest bands, I think, because they didn't know that they weren't supposed to do like kind of a bluegrass thing and throw that chord in there, and it was hillbilly punk when I played with them. It changed over time when I wasn't there.
Electric or acoustic?
Electric bass is what I played for Fetchin' Bones. And I sang, and it was complete freedom of a band. You know, it was you play what you feel, and it just turned into this thing that was wonderful. And Hope was really daring about booking us into New York. We played the Pyramid Club, we played CBGB's back in the day, we did all of that stuff, and we played all over the East Coast, and did some recording with Don Dixon. Hope was really good friends with REM, so we kind of got into that Athens, Georgia scene.
40 Watt Club.
Yeah, the 40 Watt Club all the time. Loved it. It was just a great memory of things. So that it made me want to do it even more.
When you're on stage and you're in sync with the crowd, what is that like when the crowd is into it and you're in sync with them? There's
nothing like it. There's nothing like it. When it's real and when it's good, it's soul communion, because you've got people that wouldn't naturally commune with each other necessarily, not necessarily friends, but for that 2 hours or however long it lasts, there's a Grateful Dead fan or there's a Beatles fan, and it's common ground, and it's powerful, really.
there's a lot of history in this, but with all the racial divides and everything, music is something that people can coalesce around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is something that it kind of collapses.
Yeah. I mean, the arts are, in general, I think across the board, the arts are the hope of the world. You know, it's up to artists and cities to cultivate that creativity, because the problems and the divisions are so huge. It's not going to be solved by the minds that created it.
Right.
It's got to be something that's outside of, it's got to be tapped into a vein of that unity and that commonality of human beings.
Where did your career go from?
After that?
Yeah, like what was the arc of your career?
I ended up quitting Fetch and Bones right before they landed a bigger record deal than the one that they had, which was initially with DB Records. But I quit to finish college because I had quit college to play with bands so many times. I had exhausted myself and my parents, and I was like, okay, I was literally flying in from New York at 7 o'clock in the morning after playing a gig at CBGB's and doing a dance exam sometimes back at UNCC. I was a theater dance major. So I ended up quitting to finish college. The minute I graduated, I was like, I got to have a band. I got to make a band. So I made this little band called the Blind Dates with Penny, who's part owner of ESL, and Deanna Campbell, who was another singer-songwriter.
And Penny played
the drums when there weren't many women that played drums.
This is dumb. Did she used to own Dish?
Dish, yeah. Dish Restaurant, and she owned the Milestone for a while, and she owned Tremont Music Hall for a while. And she played drums like a banshee. She still does. She's retired now with her feet up at Surf City.
So what kind of music did y'all create?
Okay, I'll tell you the true story of the Blind Dates. We did all original music at a time when nobody was doing that. We were a three-piece, all-female. I played bass, Deanna played guitar, and Penny played the drums. And we had a manager out of Raleigh, and we were trying to get that elusive record deal. And I remember this, Penny reminds me of this all the time. Our manager was in Los Angeles meeting with record companies. It really was kind of boiling down to two all-female groups who did all original music, us, the Blind Dates, and the Bangles. So that's what didn't happen. That wasn't the reason we stopped playing. You know, bands just kind of fizzle out. And we kind of just fizzled.
Well, also the road is hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's really hard.
That was at a time when that band, Fetch and Bones, kind of centered around the Athens vibe and the New York vibe that was happening. The Blind Dates centered more in Atlanta with the Indigo Girls and bands that were coming out of Atlanta at that time. And we were not punk, we were rock with some real folky edges to us, but we rocked, really.
If you'd have had a home club like in Charlotte, you think it might have made a difference?
You know, we did. Milestone was probably our home club. There was another club called 4808 and the Pterodactyl Club. There was a music scene when the Blind Dates were around. There were bands, and I hear people say always that was the golden age of the music scene in Charlotte.
I think there's going to be another one.
I hope so. I think so.
Those brew pubs need things to distinguish them. And so I think there's an opportunity there for, culture.
Yeah, and they are employing bands, and we want to do the same thing. I want to back up and say something, because we have talked about alcohol and the drive for culture for that, but there's another thing happening, and ESL really wants to be a huge part of the sober curious crowd.
Yeah, and that's a demand.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it and I see it across the board that people really want to be stimulated, fed culturally, and they don't always want to be intoxicated to do it. I think too, what can happen in that vibe, what you want as a musician, as an artist, is you want people to be listening to you. You don't want to wake up and go, wait, are they listening to me, or am I their excuse to get drunk?
Right.
Because that's disheartening.
And in Nashville, the Station Inn, Bluegrass, they would shush you. And they served beer. Mm-hmm. Like, you could have a pitcher of beer, but it was such a listening room, and people were looking at the fingers on the frets. People were studying.
Yeah.
There were students, and they created a culture. I think there are other listening rooms too. Maybe the Bluebird was like that too.
Yeah. I'm really glad you're bringing that up, because it's been, we have an alcohol license at ESL, and we are not really telling anybody, which is one of our, I'm famous for making dumb financial moves, get a bunch of money into getting an alcohol license and then not telling anybody. It's like, but we want it to be, I have said a million times, I want to be really careful about this, because what I want to do is kind of follow more the model of what Blumenthal does. As you have a bar, you can get a drink, you can take your drink in there. But once the play starts, the bar stops. You can't walk out of the play and go get another drink. That's not what we're doing. And I want to make sure that with Visart, once the movie starts, the bar goes away. And here at ESL too, same thing with the music. I don't want this place to be about alcohol. I think with the sober curious movement, and it's enlightening people to how uncomfortable we're for whatever reason. It could be people in recovery, it could be people who are pregnant, it could just be a woman who's out by herself, who doesn't want to be in a total drunken kind of environment that's about that.
You're there for the music, or you're there for the poetry.
And by the same token, like, we've got some alcohol-free wines and things like that, so that and kombuchas and things like that, so that you can still celebrate, you can still participate, and not go down that road. I think that's really important.
We've gotten to talk about these abstractions, Charlotte, and music and everything. You seem happy. Are you happy?
I'm real happy. Cool. I'm absurdly happy. Because it goes back to the episode that you did. I was listening to you about boundaries and the peace that comes with that, being able to do that. The thing my mother did not give me was a toolbox for how to set boundaries. And so that's part of what we're talking about. And I'm learning very late in life how to draw the line. Like, even relating to what you were just saying of, okay, I draw the line. I go to dinner, I do this, and then I go home. And being able to draw that line that's a huge happiness for me late in life. Learning how to say, I'm gonna be loyal to me. I'm worth it. I matter, and hey, you do your thing, but I'm gonna do mine. Thank God I have a choice, because I don't know that I've always felt like I had a choice. And And I also have a choice of nobody's gonna take my joy. They don't get that because I am happy. The hardest thing, though, as a songwriter, this crossed my mind this morning. Music, writing songs was always the thing that helped me get through betrayals and things that I wasn't, heartache. It helped me. I haven't quite figured out, which is kind of exciting, how to let music express how happy I am.
So what you're saying, easier to write a sad song than it is to write a...
Yeah, easier to write a song about struggle than to write a song about, I'm just happy, you know?
Because the song itself is what gets you through the struggle?
Yeah. So when the struggle is, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because in opening a restaurant, I've spent the last 3 or 4 years not writing. And I just woke up. I went on vacation for a week and wrote 3 songs.
What does writing look like? Do you get your guitar?
Mm-hmm. I used to not. I used to pore over these notebooks or napkins or whatever I was doing. You know, if I'm waiting tables, all of a sudden the waitress pad is a song. Lyrics, constantly, because I love poetry. So I did that all the time. I was always working 2 jobs, trying to write and do whatever else somebody else thought I was doing.
So you write these things down, but now do you sit and like noodle away at the...
Somewhere, and I don't know when it happened, but somewhere it became linked to my hands. So now I sit down with the guitar and let whatever happens happen. Sometimes I'll push record so that it's there, and sometimes I just start scratching it down and hope I remember it. And luckily I have people around me who will go, you probably should record that, or who will throw their phone down in front of me and go, just keep it, okay? So that I have it to go back to. Yeah, it all happens at once now. And it started doing that maybe 10 years ago. It just started to be linked to what I hear.
That's magic.
It is magic. I know that I can see, that I see words and I hear the underscore to them. This was something I figured out. I was like, well, I thought everybody did that. And I said it to somebody. I was like, if I read a book, I hear the underscoring for it. I don't know if my musical skill is always up to par to be able to express what I hear. But when I started writing a little bit for theater, I realized that, and I have to just thank God for this because it's a gift, and I don't know where it comes from. It's a tap into, I can read a script and I hear music, you know? And I thought, well, everybody does that.
No.
They don't. I know. They have other things that they do equally as wonderful and generous.
Very few people will read a script and hear music.
Well, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. If we get struck by lightning and the only thing that survives is this tape, what's your legacy?
I hope that I'm remembered as somebody with a generous heart. I've never had much money to be generous with, but I'm generous with my love. I would like to be remembered as a voice for collaboration, because that's what I love, and happiness. You know, I hope people remember me as happy. I know that my insides, I know that I smile, because I can't help it, because it's good. It's good here, and gratitude.
I am grateful to know you, Gina Stewart, to know more about you. I honor and acknowledge all the work you've done for Charlotte and for music. And
likewise, I'm honored to know you.
My life is richer for knowing you.
Mine is too.
Interesting person.
Mine is too. I've listened to you from a distance in certain situations for a long time.
Thank you for your time.
The man listened to me. Yay!
We're definitely using that. You can find Gina Stewart most days, Wednesday through Sunday anywhere, at East Side Local. It's right next to Visart in the shopping center on Eastway, just before Central Avenue. Thank you, Gina.
Man Listening is a production of Unmediated LLC in cooperation with the Queen City Podcast Network and Balto Creative Media. Allison Andrews at Andrews Creative and Rachel Clapp-Miller are developmental producers. Sally Higgins at Higgins & Owens tries to keep us legal. Our music is A Day at the Park by the group Pictures of the Floating World. Your announcer is Catherine Smith. That's me. Please go to our Patreon page. You'll find us at patreon.com. Look for Man Listening, one word, no spaces. We hope you'll join us by becoming a member. A small investment can raise up the conversation. If you want exclusive member merch, like a t-shirt, we can arrange that too.
A thank you from the bottom of my heart for the people who support Man Listening and have supported us from the very beginning. Thanks so much.
Don't forget to support us at Patreon. We believe one voice can change the conversation. Click the subscribe button, and next week you'll hear...
There's dementia in my family, there's alcoholism in my family, there's clearly mental illness in my family. And I would qualify as being mentally ill myself. I feel no shame about that whatsoever.
That's next week on Man Listening. Thanks.